Okay. Hello. Happy Monday. Happy new week. um, yeah, so beautiful weather at the moment. So let's enjoy that. But yeah, no, I wanted to talk a little bit about our acceptance of attitude towards it. We have talked about that before, and I'll just reiterate on that. Thank you guys for being here. With White City Connect, we're trying to provide this platform to engage, and certainly with a focus on on well-being. So this is a platform that gives us that chance to not just keep connected, but offer these different classes for well-being as well. So thanks for being here. With meditation, there's a few things. What I generally do, if you haven't been with me before, I do talk a little bit about various things that come up surrounding our meditation practice. I teach meditation in various places, and quite often I'll get some feedback or questions, and so there's always something more to add to the thoughts around meditation. And yes, we've spoken about showing up before, and that's just being really committed to your practice. But what I will say on that is that you really need to want to do that. You really want to do that. You really want to be able to commit, and it's got to feel authentic. You don't want to be meditating because somebody's told you to do that, or that you want to be like somebody else, or any of those ideas that we tend to lean on sometimes. It's got to feel, you've got to ask yourself, how is this going to change my life? What do I want to gain from meditation? So it's really kind of, I think when you ascertain what it is that you want to gain from meditation, you're kind of already putting yourself on the first cog of the wheel. You know why you want to do it, and sometimes that can be enough drive to actually sit down and start. But what I wanted to talk about today was really acceptance. So, and by the way, we'll do some meditation as well. I just talk about it first, in case you're new or we haven't met before. But the idea of acceptance is really, things are not always going to be the same. And that also happens in our outer world, obviously, right now, right? We're going through this crazy pandemic time, and that's new. And so meditation is kind of, within and also in your outer world as well. So it's kind of, we do it to learn to respond rather than react. And so when we do that in our meditation, so it's, we kind of become quite mindful about our practice. That's the actual practice. And then we take that outside of meditation practice into the outside world. How do we accept change? How do we deal with that? So going back to a more local level, so when you're meditating, the acceptance I wanted to talk about today was really about accepting that it won't be the same practice every time you get to it. Also accepting that sometimes some days will feel really, really hard, and some days will feel a lot more cruisy. Quite often when we are in a good place, a good sense of self, we're feeling buoyant, we're feeling happy, we kind of think, well, there's two things actually. One is it's really easy to meditate when you're in a good place. Well, it's easier, let's just say that. It feels easier. The other thing is that it's really important to meditate on the good days as well as the bad days, because when you regularly meditate, i.e., you show up every day to do that, when you regularly do that, and you set it as your daily commitment to the practice, you're already reinforcing your neural pathways. So towards the practice. So if you do it every day, including the really good days, it's kind of like setting up a little kind of bank deposit for the bad days. All right. So it's rebuilding those and reinforcing those neural pathways that go, oh, okay, here we are. This is the meditation time, and yeah, and just kind of accepting. So you turn up, whatever position you're in that day, whether you feel stressed out, if you feel happy, it doesn't really matter. You have your meditation time. It doesn't have to be the same time every day if that's difficult, although it does help. It helps to get into a bit of a keep to the same time every day. And it's a kind of like, you're saying to yourself, to your mind, oh, I'm here now. This is the place that I meditate. Oh, it must be that time. Okay, let's go. It's a little bit like that. So it helps to do the same time every day, but I don't always do the same time every day. I have various things in between that might make that impossible. So I have to do it later or a lot earlier. So yeah, it's accepting that it won't always be the same. So there's the physical side of it not being the same, i.e., you're either in a very good place or you're not. But there's also the other side, which is when you're meditating, you might have a different experience one day than you do the next day. And I don't mean necessarily in terms of getting into the zone necessarily, but you might prefer to take a kind of clearer, mindful meditation practice versus a very calming meditation practice. And there is a little bit of a difference. I actually think there's a slight difference between mindfulness and meditation. Most people will say it's the same, but I think there's a fine line. And that mindfulness for me is you're aware, as you are in the relaxed meditation, you're aware of your breath, you're aware of your focus. But with a mindful meditation, it's something that you can kind of take on the train with you to work or walking through the park. It's more of a kind of, it's more accessible in a kind of moving meditation. Not more accessible, but it's a handy time to do it. Or you could be sitting in a meeting, and your mind might be playing monkey mind, and you know that you need to be kind of listening to what's going on. It might be a work meeting or something like that. And you can sit there, and just the way that you're breathing can make a difference on your mind. So it's it's being mindful in the moment, being mindful about what you're doing. It might also be something like one type of meditation is having a picture of something. There's one that I've chosen a couple of times, which is one of nature, and you can look at that picture that you have before you start a meditation. Really look at it, like really, really look at it. Notice everything that's on that picture, and then close your eyes, and then imagine that image for a while. And that becomes more of a kind of mindful practice. You're remembering what's on the picture. You can remember the details. There's more going on. Like you've got to focus, but you could be focusing on quite a few things in that picture. But you're still not attached to your thoughts outside of that. So it's still a beautiful meditation. And then there's the other type of meditation, which I think is the more relaxed kind, which is, we'll do some breathing exercises, but then there's this kind of really beautiful space between. We talked about it last week, if you were listening then, this space between, which kind of feels like a suspension. It's like this kind of pause button, which feels a little bit like, and I said this last week too, but it feels a bit like a suspension, like you're like Everything's kind of suspended in time. And I think there are moments in life that we have like that as well. So that might resonate with you, I'm not sure, but this relaxed meditation just kind of takes you into that zone where you might just be kind of like looking behind your eyelids, and it feels deeper. It doesn't mean to say that's more effective than the mindfulness. It's just a kind of deeper connection. You might sort of be open to some answers that might come up. So the reason I'm saying all that up front is that today with the meditation, what I'd like to do is take you through practices for both, because you can do both. I found this the other day. I was starting to do the more mindful practice. I didn't have a picture, but there was a little robin that had landed on the grass. I was outside in the park, which was lovely. And there was a little robin that had landed just in front of me, and I looked at him for quite a long time, and he kind of looked back at me until he then just had enough and flew off. But I was looking so intently at him, I had then, formed this picture, this almost photographic image, I guess you could call it, in my mind. So I started meditating, and I also wanted to be really clear as well. I was working on a workshop that I do every now and then, and I wanted to have a really clear mind. So I started off this idea of the more mindful practice and using the coherent breath, which we'll also cover in a moment. And I was doing that for some time, maybe about 10 minutes. And then I kind of slipped into this very kind of deep place. And there was this kind of stillness. And that's the suspension that I was talking about earlier on, where it's kind of very, it's like a pause button, it's relaxed. And you can sometimes have that feeling when you hold your breath in, you hold on to that, it's like everything else stops. Well, you're not breathing for a start off, but everything else kind of feels like it's suspended. It's a beautiful kind of sense. Some people say it's the truest person that you can be. When you're holding your breath, you're just really in touch with who you are. You can play with that and find out if that's true, but that's a really lovely place to suspend everything. That means thoughts. You're less likely to be thinking about random thoughts because you're just holding the breath. There's a focus there. And then the other thing is the space between the breaths. So when we're doing little breath exercises, there's that space between the breaths that I also feel is some kind of little suspension. It's just when you're really, really quiet, you're just breathing normally. So there's conscious breathing when you're deliberately breathing a certain way, and then you let that go. And it's that little kind of like quiet time when you're just breathing magically as you do without thinking about it. You've probably been doing that as I've been talking, not really thinking too much about your breath. That's perfect. You come back to that, but this time you're really noticing it. So we breathe all the time. We carry breath. We breathe all day. We take it with us. We don't think about it. When you start to notice without having to change anything, that can be really nice and relaxing as well. So I was doing that, and so it started off with this kind of coherent breath and the more mindful practice, and it kind of changed halfway through. That's what I mean by acceptance. Don't kind of plan anything, just see what happens. It changed halfway through and turned into this more meditative, more relaxed state meditation. And that can kind of clear some space as well. You might get some thoughts. And that's just one other thing I wanted to talk about. When you have thoughts, when you're meditating, and if you get into that kind of like really quiet space where it feels like infinitive, if you'll recognize the different types of thoughts. You might get thoughts that come in that are domestic, everyday thoughts. What time am I going to try and go to bed tonight? Or when we're going to have a dinner, and what time is my lunch? Or, oh no, I'm supposed to be meditating. Oh, back to that. Oh, I didn't ring back so-and-so. Oh, back to the breath. Those kind of thoughts. You don't need to get attached to at all, but just know that they're there. It's fine. You can just go, oh, there's one of those thoughts. Come back to your breath. But there's another type of thought, and you will learn to learn the difference of the two thoughts. And this is that it's a more insightful thought. So you might find yourself feeling quite relaxed, and you'll just feel the thoughts kind of calming down a little bit, perhaps in your mind. And what can happen sometimes is an idea can come in, or just a little ounce of clarity. It could be anything, anything at all. But something that goes, oh, wow, that's a really good idea. I should do that. That's a different kind of thought to the domestic one. So I'm just saying, be open to that happening. And sometimes it's quite nice to keep a journal by your side to write down anything that comes up for you. Not the random domestic thoughts, you don't need those. You've got those all day, thousands of them. But anything that kind of feels clearer. Don't look for it. It's like anything else. When you start looking for it, you can't find it. Forget about that idea. Just know that when, if ever, and it comes maybe with a lot of practice too. You've got to kind of do this thing. You're going to do this gig. You're going to turn up every day and commit. Give it your time. So I'm just putting it out there in case that ever happens to you. But you'll know what I'm talking about one day. You'll notice the difference in those two thought processes. I think we should start, actually. You don't need to listen to me talking about it anymore. You probably just want to get on it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what I was talking about. We're going to start with the more mindful practice, and then we're going to lead it into a kind of deeper meditation. All right. So you don't have to think about anything. I'm going to talk you through all of it. So the main thing you've got to do is make yourself comfortable. I've also talked about this before. Don't feel like you have to sit cross-legged. If that helps you, sit cross-legged. The idea with that is you've got a nice straight spine. I'm currently sitting in a chair because I've got the laptop on my lap. So I have a back on my chair, and that's nice because my back's still straight, even though I'm leaning back a little bit. My arms are comfortable. They're just relaxing on the armchairs, chair arms, whatever you call them. And yeah, so just get really nice and easy. Lying down is an idea. If you're in any physical discomfort, and lying down is the only way, go for that. But I would just caution that there's a very fine line between falling asleep and meditating. So you don't really want to fall asleep unless you're really tired, and it helps you fall asleep and you need to sleep, go for that. But if you want to have clarity, really hone your meditation practice, then it's best to sit up. So you choose, do what's right for you. And now we're just going to close our eyes. So it's closing your eyes, just noticing how you are sitting. So feeling that. Feeling your sitting bones. Your shoulders, can they relax away from your ears? And just notice your breath. Just being aware of your breath, that in and out. That's all your breath is, just a simple in and out. So you're not trying to breathe in any particular way, you're just checking in. If you can learn to observe your breath without changing it, then you're already halfway there. Just remember that word acceptance through the practice. Not necessarily as a mantra, just as an idea. And then what I want you to do is we're going to start with 3 breaths. I'm going to breathe in through the nose, and if you can breathe out through the nose too, that's great for the first 3. It will change to the mouth on the second 3. But the first 3, if you can, if your nose is blocked, then please, of course, use your mouth. No problem at all. But what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for a certain count. I always do this at the start of my meditations, by the way. So you're going to breathe in for a certain count, maybe 5, maybe 3, maybe 7, and then hold the breath at the top for a couple of counts, couple of beats, and then let it go out through your nose, but slowly. So slower than the in-breath. So if you counted in for 5, you might breathe out for 7 or 9, respectively. So just see what your count is, and we'll start together. So we'll just do the first 3 together. So breathing in whenever you're ready. Fill yourself up. Remember to hold the breath at the top just for a couple of beats. And then let it go out through your nose really slowly. Whenever you're ready to breathe in again, going again. Holding it at the top. And then slowly releasing it. Just doing one more of those in your own time. So we've got to the end of that last third breath, the in and the out. Just taking a moment to notice your normal breathing. So you're not consciously breathing, you're just watching the breath as it is normally, relaxed breath. And then we're going to repeat that, but the second time, sorry, not the second time, but we're going to breathe in on the out breath. You're going to use your mouth to breathe out. And the reason for that is also if you can tuck your chin into your chest so that when you breathe out, it makes a kind of sound like the ocean kind of sound. Then that's a really lovely focus for you as well. And it will really help you slow down that out breath. So we'll take 3 again on this. I'll just count you in for the first one. So breathing in, fill yourself up. Hold the breath at the top for a couple of beats. Then when you're ready, out through the mouth, chin to chest a little bit. And then 2 more times, just like that, in your own time. I won't count you in this time, just do 2 more. And whenever you've finished that last one, just again, allowing yourself just to soften here. Notice your breath, relaxed breath. Not doing anything at all, just noticing how the body is, how the breath is. Simple in and out. And then while you're sitting here, I want you to bring a picture to your mind's eye. So it can be anything at all, anything in nature. You can imagine a tree if you like. You might have a photograph that you look at a lot that you can remember really well. It could be, a bird. It could be a flower. Anything that you've seen over the last couple of days. that resonates. Something nice, something quite joyful. And then when you've got an idea what that could be, it could even be a kid's drawing or any of those rainbows, the NHS and rainbows we see everywhere, anything like that. And then I just want you to visualize it. So you're keeping your eyes closed, but just hone in on that image and just see how deeply you can look at it, what you can remember on it. And don't worry if the memory kind of changes the picture a little bit, it doesn't matter. You're just so focused on that image, looking for details on the image. Maybe you'll be noticing the colors. Maybe there's a certain light on the picture or the image in your mind. If your mind flips to another one, try and go back to the first one that you picked. Just try and stay with that. And every time you find your mind wanders off or has a random thought, domestic thought coming in, just going back to that image, what you can see with your mind's eye. So no real thought, you're just looking at it. Like I say, if the image changes slightly, that's also fine. The mind has wandered, just coming back to that image just one more time. And then you can just let it go, let that image go. Don't have to think about it anymore. What we're going to do, still staying on the mindfulness track, is that we're going to use a coherent breath. So that just means that you'll be breathing normally, but try and keep the in and the out breath absolutely even. So if you're breathing in for 5, you'll breathe out for 5. There's no need to hold it at the top of the breath or at the bottom. You could just breathe in and out. But see, it takes a little bit of focus to do this. See if you can keep them both the same. You might find that the out breath just naturally starts to lengthen. See if you can keep it the same. So off you go whenever you're ready. So coherent breath. And you can count as well. So count your breath as you go in on the inhale. And out the same on the exhale. You get to the end of that number, you're going to breathe in again. So you don't want that exhale to get too long. You just want to keep them both the same. Now, if you find that at the bottom of your exhale, you're wanting to hang there a little bit, then make the inhale a little bit longer and softer. These don't have to be really big, full breaths. They can just be very relaxed breaths. But you're trying to keep both the same length, in and out. So So just noticing what you have to do to keep them even. It might be that your in-breath is longer than your out, in which case you would maybe shorten the in-breath to make it even with the out. So it's quite a mindful practice to really keep an eye on both the in and the out breath, keeping them the same. And they don't have to be the same number each different breath. I mean, a full breath in and out will be the same number, but if you find further down the line you're just doing 3, if you started with 5, then just do 3, as long as both sides match. So just doing pairs of breath. This conscious breath and breathing exercises generally can get quite tiring. So if you need to just pause and just breathe naturally for a bit, then please feel free to do that. You can always come back to the coherent breath, double-sided. Always be kind to yourself. If you find your mind wandering, just come back to the coherent breaths, same each side. Knowing that you can alternate between different lengths of breath between the breaths. So keep both sides exactly the same. Breathing for 5 on the in, out for 5 on the exhale. But you might want to do a little 2 on each side in between that, if that feels good for you too. I'll just do this for 1 more minute. And gently just let that coherent breath go. Let it go. Just breathing naturally now, just feeling that softness. Just that nice feeling of release when you let go. Not having to do anything, just being soft. And now the final thing in our mindful side of meditation is that we're just going to scan the body. So this idea is, as we go through the body, I'm going to do it with you and guide you along. But as I mention each part, try and see if you can soften that part. It's amazing how many tiny muscles we might be hanging on to and how much you can also always soften some more, okay? So it's a funny thing, it's only when you bring attention to those certain areas of your body that you become aware that, oh, I could soften that a bit more. Gosh. Okay, so yeah, just starting now. So we're just going to start with your right heel, your right big toe. Your second toe, your third toe, your fourth toe, your little pinky toe, your ankle, your right ankle. So any way you can soften that more. Your right calf, your right knee, your right hip, your right sitting bone, your right shoulder blade, your right shoulder, your right elbow, your right hand, from your thumb, the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little pinky, your left heel, your left big toe, your left second toe, third toe, fourth toe, pinky, your left ankle bone, your left calf, your left knee, your left hip, your left sitting bone, your left shoulder blade, your left shoulder, your left elbow, your left hand, your thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little pinky finger, the back of your neck, all the way up to the crown of your head, your forehead softening, eyes heavy in the sockets, chin, your jawline, soft belly, soft heart. And just really noticing how you feel the soft skin. And now that you're here in this nice quiet place, I just want you to notice that very natural breathing. You're not changing it, you're not doing conscious breath. You're just breathing normally, but really being aware of that simple in, simple out. Any thoughts that come into your mind, just get right back into that body of yours, soft. Just feeling all the sensations that that brings. Then here, just really allowing, accepting where you are. A very simple in and out breath, just noticing it. Enter the body and leave the body. In and out. No conscious breath, you're just breathing exactly as you should be, as your unique self needs to. Your body's brilliant at knowing exactly what to do if you allow it space. And any time a random thought comes into your mind, just come back to this space between, this silent little place where there's nothing going on other than noticing your breath. And then you might just start noticing behind your eyelids. So this is a really restful gaze with your eyes closed. And the gaze is that you're just kind of looking at the back of the eyelids, whatever the light outside of your body is allowing the shapes or the colors to be, and just noticing them. So it's a little bit like being taken on a little journey, just following the colors, following the shapes. It can look a little bit like a lava lamp, kind of different blobs of color maybe moving around, or it might just be dark if you're in a dark space. Although you can also see light colors even in the dark behind your eyelids. They can sometimes be imagined. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you're looking at the back of the eyelids. Just allowing yourself to fall into any color that might come up or any shape. And seeing how long you can look at it until it changes shape or color or shadow or light. And anytime a thought comes back into your mind, just go all the way back to what you can see behind your eyelids. Feeling that softness in the belly, breathing naturally. Nothing's tight, nothing's rigid, everything's soft. And then I just want you to just be aware of any sounds around you. So this is the way of bringing you back into a more mindful state again. So you're listening for sounds around you. It could be anything at all. It could even be your own breath. But it could be somebody in your home you can hear moving around in another room, like the neighbors. Might even be birds if you're lucky enough, if you've got the window open. Maybe just a dishwasher, anything at all. Bring yourself back into your space. And then very gently opening your eyes, just with a very low gaze. You kind of allow your eyelids to open really slowly, as if you're kind of sweeping them along the floor. And then bring yourself back into your room, into your life, back into your world again. Yeah, it's really important to bring yourself back slowly, just in the same way as it takes a while to get into a relaxed state. It's as important to bring yourself back, kind of in reverse a little bit, you know. So that's the idea of taking things in around you and what you can see and experience back as a transition back into the real world. Yeah. And so we did what we did there was, we did a bit of the mindful stuff, mostly mindful actually, probably noticed that. The exercises that we did, the coherent breathing, the even sided breath, which you can take with you anywhere, walking down the street or anything like that. Um, and the image, and then feeling the body scan. That's all very mindful practice, which is wonderful, because you're so busy doing that your mind's not allowed to kind of escape to other places, which is kind of how it's meant to work. And then it's then we kind of led into that very still, more meditative place at the end. So there you go. You've had a couple of different experiences within that meditation, hopefully, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's been really lovely being with you, and take care, and yeah, stay well. Thank you so much.